Thank you all once again. You are taking part in the 2023 Women Voices Now Film Festival Media Lounge. Our film festival this year, Holding Ground Under Siege, brings together 38 films from across the documentary genre in the feature category, the short category, and youth documentary. Today's Media Lounge, you'll get a glimpse at filmmakers from across those three categories who will help us tell the story of Holding Ground Under Siege. The Women Voices Now Film Festival aims to uplift emerging filmmakers from around the world, specifically with an emphasis on women's filmmakers, to help us tell the story of how powerful film is when it comes to advancing women's rights around the globe. So the 38 films in our collection do just that, and we're so excited to kick off our month-long programming with this event today. Couple ground rules I'll say once again, just so everyone's on the same page. We'll keep all cameras off and we'll stay muted unless you are the speaker speaking. Thank you so much for making that happen. It gives us the best chance of recording and capturing all the information we want, so thank you. Speakers, I ask that you all use the Zoom rename feature to adjust your name accordingly. This is how you'll be identified, and we want to make sure people have the best opportunity to capture the spelling of your name correctly. While you're speaking, speakers, I will be taking the moment to drop into the chat the film that you're a part of in the festival. I also welcome you to reiterate that information while you're speaking, but I'll just say I'm doing that. For folks who are just joining, please go ahead and keep your cameras off. We'll have your cameras come on once it's your turn to speak. And as a reminder, everyone here has no more than 5 minutes, and I ask for clarity and brevity in your communication so our points can really stick. Our goal here today is to highlight the 2023 official selection of films in our film festival. Again, 38 films in our collection that speak to this theme of holding ground under siege. In our film festival, we have a variety of programs we've organized to communicate this theme and to communicate the struggle and the ongoing efforts of women's rights and advocates around the globe. Our goal in this annual film festival is to showcase the power of film to advance women's rights on a global scale, support emerging filmmakers with an emphasis on women behind the camera. We're a documentary film festival, and we're in our 9th season, and we're really, really glad to be able to continue to do this work. I'm going to take a moment to shout out our sponsors for the festival while I give speakers just one more moment to prepare, because we'll quickly be turning over this to you. Thank you to the Dudley T. Daugherty Foundation, the Lantos Foundation for Human Rights and Justice, Outlier, and the Monster Energy Cares for helping us put on our festival. I'm going to quickly play the trailer of our festival, and then from that point on, I will be bringing up our first speaker, who is Sierra Glaude. Sierra Glaude is a member of our industry panel. I'll read a bio in just a second, just queuing you up, Sierra, so you know you're going to speak as soon as I'm finished sharing our film trailer. So give me 1 second to pull that up. Thank you all. You should be able to see that screen now, and I'm going to go ahead and hit play on our trailer. I Hope you all had a moment to watch and enjoy. I learned the music wasn't shared, so I'll make sure you all have the link to watch it again. The festival trailer is also available at the start of our showcase, so you have a chance to see it, and we'll make sure you have an opportunity to watch once again. So I'm going to be inviting to the stage our first speaker, Sierra Gloud. Sierra is a member of our industry panel, Women Voices Now effort to bring closer resources to the emerging filmmakers in our community. Sierra, we're so incredibly grateful to have you be a part of this industry panel and really excited to hear more about your background, the reason why you were excited to be a part of an effort like this film festival, and your own thoughts on the power of film to advance women's rights around the globe. So take it away.
Absolutely. What's up, party people? I'm Sierra Shooter Glade. I'm a filmmaker from Mobile, Alabama. I'm a TV director. I've directed a bunch of episodes. And although I don't have anything in this festival, because I'm not in particular a documentary filmmaker, I still think it's really important for, not only for people to speak up for themselves, just in general daily life, but I think it's extremely important to, advocate on a platform where it can reach a lot of people. And so I think that spaces like this are paramount to being able to, swing change and also just inform people, because sometimes informing people is, what really needs to happen. And so I feel like my advice to, people that want to be heard or feel like they need to get some issues out there is, one, stand firm in your decision but flexible in your approach, and go out there and show the things and make the things, be loud. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't let anybody silence you. Don't let anybody silence your cause, because that's what they're going to do. We're under siege. We've been under siege forever. And we will probably continue to be, and so like, I feel like the best thing we can do is just put on our armor and go out there and fight for our causes, and also band together. Because there's power in numbers and stuff like that. But to me, it's just really important to get out there and make your thing and show your thing, whatever that thing may be. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I think, again, spaces like this are important, so we can, form that tribe and also have that sounding board where people can, just rely on each other and get that support and encouragement that they need to be able to go out and raise these issues with confidence. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's something that I'm pretty good at, being a young gay Black woman from the South that's in a male dominated industry. My mom recently described me in a video as being outspoken, and I thought that was so hilarious, because there's so many other things that you could describe me as, but for her to pick that as the first one, I thought it was funny, but I also took it as like a really great compliment, because one thing that I'm not going to do is let anybody get over on me. And I'm definitely not going to let, people get over on people that I love or issues that I care about. So, I think you just got to remain steadfast, and then, again, just find these spaces that allow us to amplify and broaden these issues, because again, that is how change is going to get made, because sometimes people don't know about issues and certain conflicts and things like that, but we have the platform in the media in this day and age to be able to really go out there and make some noise and create some change.
Thank you so much, Sierra. I'm curious if you want to share any project that you're currently working on before we thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you.
What I'm working on currently, I'm just on a nice TV run. I'm about to do my 17th episode of television since I first started professionally directing at the end of 2020. And so I've had the privilege of doing some shows like Queen Sugar, where we talk about women's rights, farmers' rights, and stuff like that. Like, there's learning guides for these things on the internet, and then other shows like The Shy, where I dealt with other like women's issues and things like that. So that's just currently what I'm working on. I hope to be working on a feature soon, which will take you down south and into some country life of mine and kind of showing that world. So those are the things I'm working on right now. But again, I just highly encourage you. People always like, Sierra, how did you, first of all, hustle and kindness is my math. I feel like if you hustle hard and be kind, you can go as far as you want. But the other thing is you really just have to show your stuff. Because when I first made my first short and stuff like that, my mentor, Ava DuVernay, was like, why didn't you ask me for help? And I was like, I wanted you to see what I could do without you first. So make the thing, show the thing, and stand up for your cause and say it with your chest.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, Sierra Glade. I'm really glad that you could take the time. And I want folks to know that you'll be back with us as part of the Women Voices Now Film Festival. The time continues next week, Thursday, March 9th at noon. We have our industry panel. All ticket holders are able to access the industry panel. And so Sierra will be back with us then, and a few other folks to share more advice, to connect with filmmakers at that time. So thank you once again, Sierra, for taking a moment to cue us up for all that you've got in store then, and just really congratulations, and grateful for you to be a part of this community with us.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me, truly.
Thank you.
This is the type of stuff we need. Y'all doing it.
That's right. All right, take care. Thank you. Next up, and a part of the industry panel as well, we have a representative from the Safe Spaces Pictures Foundation. I know Courtney Langer is here representing one of our industry panelists, Nicole Shipley. Courtney, if you're able to join us. I just want to share a stat while Courtney's finding her way to the stage. I saw we printed in our film program, and this is one of the many reasons why this film festival is so valuable, all the information we share, that 1 in every 11 film directors is a woman, and only 5.6 directors over the past 16 years have been women. That means 1,488 films have been created. That's a recent stat. It's just sort of astounding still. Courtney, I see you in the chat. If you're able to join us on the stage, you can unmute yourself and turn on your camera, and the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm off camera. I didn't know I need to be camera ready, but
Okay.
my personality will shine brighter.
No problem.
Nice to meet everyone. As Chelsea mentioned, my name is Courtney. I'm a philanthropic advisor. I work with families on their giving strategies and companies on their impact initiatives. And today I'm here representing Safe Space Pictures Foundation. We're a 501c3 co-founded and run by Nicole Shipley. Shipley started Safe Space after working in the entertainment industry for about 12 years, and she became increasingly more frustrated on how the industry treated women. So she wanted to create a safe space, and decided to lean into the production and business side. And really, we focus on elevating women, minorities, and underrepresented voices within the film industry. Nicole produced several highly acclaimed films, such as A Private War, The Trial of the Chicago 7, Battleground, which is a documentary on reproductive rights. And we have many other films across various issue areas. We are based in Los Angeles. We have a predominantly female team that's really focused on finding and championing those underrepresented voices in the entertainment industry. And we shine light on many different issue areas, whether it's climate change, criminal justice reform, mental health, human rights, immigration. And we see our films as educational tools that are able to meet folks where they're at. So either out in a movie theater, in the comfort of their own home, on different streaming platforms, or through partner organizations that we work with, whether it's Columbia University or Anti-Recidivism Coalition. In addition to film festival strategies, we look for grassroots organizations to partner with to help elevate these underrepresented storytellers and create an impact from a bottom-up solution space. So that's a little bit about us. I'm not sure.
Thank you, Courtney. And just quickly, I know the connection is so clear, the commitment to mission alignment. We're really grateful to have Nicole be a part of the industry panel. I just want to ask for you and Women's Voices Now and the mission of film as advancing women's rights in the world, maybe just a quick moment on that.
Sure. On the fund side, so we seek to find female voices or underrepresented communities And we have two models for investment. It either takes on the form of a mission-related investment, an MRI, and then a programmatic-related investment. And while most people are familiar with programs, we really like to focus on mission. So we're looking for other female voices that have stories to tell that can create an impact. And the reason why I started there is because we were introduced to Cynthia Lowen, who is the director and producer of Battleground. Battleground premiered at Tribeca. It's, in my opinion, a very tasteful documentary on the future of abortion in America, and it represented both sides and really shined a light on the believability gap. For 2 years, Cynthia was following around these organizations that were trying to overturn Roe versus Wade, and really shined a light for the left, like what certain organizations are doing and how they're weaponizing youth. And we produced this film. We also produced robust resources, so discussion guides. So Nicole didn't just want to produce a film and get behind an issue area that's important to her. She also wanted to create a lot of content to educate the next generation, to educate tomorrow's voters, to educate tomorrow's jury, and really allow people to make informed decisions about their life.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for adding that and giving the examples you did. We really appreciate it and your time here today, Courtney. And we're so grateful to have Nicole's involvement in our industry panel at noon Pacific time next Thursday. So thank you again for being here today.
Thank you. We're so excited.
And we'll invite our next speaker to the stage, Pamela Torrance, our first of many filmmakers you'll hear from. Pamela, if you're able to, you can turn on your camera and you have the floor. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Oh, geez, I'm sorry my lighting is terrible as a filmmaker. I apologize. But I'm really excited to be here and to be part of the Women's Voices Now Film Festival. My film is called We're Not Going Back, and it's a pro-choice documentary. I've seen Battleground and I liked it. I only kind of tell the pro-choice side of the story in mine. And I made it this past summer, both a little bit before and after the fall of Roe v. Wade. I was passionate about the issue. I kind of saw it coming, but I didn't kind of realize how big and impactful the actual decision would be in overturning Roe. And so I was planning on doing kind of a short documentary on the weekends, but I ended up having so many recruitment potential because women were sharing their stories after the leak happened in early May. You might remember if you're in the United States. And so that was where I just realized that this was a much bigger story. And me living in California, I also recognized that I needed to get out into the red states of the United States of America so that I could really tell the story of the folks that were going to be the most impacted by the decision and the stripping away of the federal protections for reproductive rights here in the United States for women. And so I quit my full-time corporate sales job and I grabbed my camera and I went out on the road and I drove to mainly the red states, Oklahoma and Texas, but I also hit up a few other states. But I was able to tell the story, especially because in Texas, they had already restricted reproductive rights about 9 months before the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So I was able to not only get pre-Roe era stories from older women, but also to tell some of the challenges from some of the folks that had been experiencing these types of restrictions for, at that time, about 9 months. So anyway, I was able to capture some amazing, diverse reasons for folks seeking abortion and folks that didn't have abortions for various reasons, and to tell all of their stories. And yeah, it was really important to me because I wanted to kind of just show the different reasons. It's very common abortion, and nobody talks about it. And so when this issue was kind of rising up, I thought, geez, we really need to get and capture the stories. Mainly my original goal was just the women who had pre-Roe era stories, so older women. And I have some of them, but I also have some younger women as well. And so I was able to really kind of, I think, give that snapshot from just that perspective of a couple of states. And it's it's blown up. I mean, the issue is even worse now, as I'm following the news. So I might have to do a sequel, but anyway, this film is out. I did actually finish it before the election. It's kind of embarrassing to watch it now because there's so many things I would tweak if I had more time, but it is what it is. And I'm really happy to have the world see it now online with this platform. So very grateful to Women's Voices Now for giving this opportunity for me in the film.
Thank you. You said something that I think is such a, it speaks so well to the festival. We capture the moment in time that we're in as a women's rights movement. And all of the films in so many ways do that so well. So just thank you for uplifting that facet of this. It's why we're an annual festival, so we can continue to evolve the story. And we'll look forward to having your sequel in the next.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pamela. Take care. And as a reminder to folks, as our next speaker is coming to the stage, Jade, you're up next. All of our films are available online on demand the entire month of March. We'll share more information, but Jade, you're up. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm very glad to be here. It's a great honor. I'm sorry about my bad English. I don't get the chance to speak English in a long time. I'm Brazilian, and I'm speaking from a very small village in the country. So I made this film it's called Hermanos, Here We Are. It's about the life stories of Venezuelan refugees women in Cuiabá, Mato Grosso, Brazil, in the city here. So I found them in the streets holding signs asking for help and employment in shelter homes. And they are refugees from this great economic and social crisis in their country. And I decided to make this movie because I was seeing these people in the streets, and the government wasn't doing anything. No one was talking about it. People were just unseen. So
no, you're okay.
As she wrote something that I went to read. So then it was very hard to do it because we were in the middle of pandemic, so people were even more vulnerable. We didn't have the vaccines, and people by that time, they were getting in the country illegally, so they have to face a really hard way to get here, and we were facing also this extreme right government that was empowering prejudice and all kinds of bad acts against people. And so talking a little bit about me, I'm a poet, I'm a documentary filmmaker and a film educator and a human and nature rights activist. I was born in the Amazon, so since I was a little child, I was very connected to the forest and the spirits that live in the forest and indigenous people. So I started to film, to amplify their voices, to sing all the things that were happening here, because our indigenous people, they are being, they suffer all kinds of violations in their territories. They suffer a very big genocide. So when I started to become a woman and understand why I was in this world, I understood that that my mission was to stand by them and to help to tell those stories. So I started in an independent way, gathering people with a lot of love and hard work to make those films happen, and following my intuition also, because by that time I didn't know much of the industry. But then step by step, things were happening, and we had a lot of success in our first movie. So it walked around the world, and it helped to spread the stories we were talking about, illegal mining in indigenous territories. And after that, I kept studying and specializing on my work. And now I run a production company. And we make films about human rights and nature rights, and mostly about indigenous peoples and minorities. And we also have this project for to educate young women to learn the tools so they can tell by themselves their stories. And for me, it's a great honor to be here because I felt home. I felt like I found my family. This is my mission, also my purpose, to amplify women's voice and to help to tell those stories. So I believe that when we do that, we open windows so people can feel one another, and by recognizing our shared humanity, all these prejudices and all those things that separate us, they started to fall, and we can move the winds of change. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Jade. That was so moving. I'm really grateful for you to take the time to join us. As our next speaker comes to the stage, thank you so much. Really, I was moved. I just wanted to uplift something that you and the last speaker said, this idea that I saw something happening and nobody was doing anything about it. I heard that reflected from you and Pamela both, and I think that's such a case in the types of stories that folks here are tackling. So thank you for taking the time. Ian Kim, you're next, and we're so excited to hear Ian's the first youth documentary filmmaker or youth film that is being represented here. So over to you, Ian, and make sure you unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi, my name is Ian Kim. I'm a junior in high school at Harvard Westlake in Los Angeles. The film that I made, which is a 10-minute long animated documentary, stop motion animated documentary, is about the life of one of the survivors of the comfort women system, which was a system of sexual slavery created in World War II by the Imperial Japanese government. And essentially, it was this widespread system across the Japanese-held territories of Asia. So that'd be Korea, French Indochina, China, and other territories in the Pacific, where the Japanese army would essentially kidnap and traffic women and girls to the front lines of war, where they would be forced into sexual slavery for Japanese soldiers. And so I interviewed Leong-soo, who lives in Korea, and I basically created this animated project about her life from when she was kidnapped in 1942 from her home in Daegu in Korea, and how she was trafficked to an air base in Taiwan, and how her story of survival and activism continues to this day through her participation in sort of the legal side of the comfort women asking for reparations from the Japanese government, and from the public activism side, which she's also active in. And she's now 95 years old, and she's continuing to do a multi-front activism project for the comfort women. And there were, I believe, more than 200,000 comfort women victims during World War II, and only 11 survivors of the comfort women system who are known to still be alive in Korea right now. And so when I went to create this film 2 years ago in my freshman year of high school, I saw that there was so little literature, especially in English, on the comfort women issue, and how it was virtually unknown outside of Asia and the Asian American community, which is where I first heard of it. And much of the literature that did exist was very academic and sort of inaccessible. So what I wanted to do is bring this very unknown and really extremely heavy topic from history that so few people know about, and it's in danger of sort of disappearing in the next few decades, and to create a film that was accessible to people in the West, and especially to young people who I thought could really have a lot to gain from this short form animated film, especially with the current climate of awareness, not just for women's rights and historical rights and civil rights, but especially for events in history and around the world relating to colonialism, imperialism, and violence in war. And so that's why I decided to create this film in this form. And I've been working on it for the last couple of years, interviewing and animating and trying to get the film out there. And I'm super grateful for Women's Voices Now. I've actually seen a number of the student films from the organization, which has been an amazing privilege. But yeah.
Thank you, Ian. What a treat to get to hear from you. I loved the film and the animations, and I think you did so much of what you spoke to, making it accessible, this really challenging topic. Ian Kim with My Sisters in the Stars. Thank you so much again for joining. Our youth or next gen filmmaker showcase has 7 different youth films in it. I hope folks get a chance to check them all out. They're all shorts. So there's really, it's in the same amount of time you could watch one feature, you can watch all 7 of the incredible youth shorts, and we hope you get a chance to do so. Thanks again for coming out today, Ian. Our next filmmaker can start making your way to the stage. Tamar, are you with us?
Yes, hi.
Oh, terrific. There, okay, thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Tato Giligashvili. Well, my official name is Tamar, but I've reclaimed my nickname that my family has always called me, which is Tato. I'm a 24-year-old filmmaker from the Republic of Georgia, and my documentary, A Very Happy Woman, is a film about my family's journey with marriage by abduction in Georgia. This project has been anything but linear. The kind of vulnerability demanded of me was not easy. It's a very intimate interpersonal story that has been a culmination of 3 years of work and research, and it's a process that has stretched beyond this short as well. The goal is to shed as much light on bride napping as possible, fruit of which will hopefully be active change, more education, more resources, and progress towards healing for many generations of women in Georgia. Before I get into my film, I'll give a bit of context on marriage by abduction. It's been around in Georgia for many centuries, to the point that it's difficult to track its origins, but it became increasingly popular after the fall of Soviet Union in 1991. Men would abduct their intended brides with force or deception, with help from their male friends, and a night spent in captivity would most likely result in marriage, as whether or not rape would occur, the intended bride would be regarded as disgraced in the eyes of society. In 2004, marriage by abduction became a criminal act of kidnapping, but it continued to go unpunished by practice. By claiming that kidnapping is a part of centuries-old tradition, allows perpetrators and Georgian authorities to brush off these crimes and further discredit women. Even after 11 years, 576 underage school students quit school due to marriage in 2015 alone. However, many civil rights activists consider this statistic to be inaccurate and suggest the actual number is much larger. Although kidnapping is almost not practiced, especially in the urban Georgia, there are still rural villages where this tradition persists. It's a heavily patriarchal system upheld by delusions of tradition, and at the same time, it is partially perpetuated through the cycle of generational trauma. Young girls are raised and taught by those who were themselves victims of bride napping. Therefore, due to lack of otherwise perspective and education, they believe it only to be natural to be married as a part of a violent act of kidnapping, which is also, I think, something that my film addresses. This suffocating feeling of being trapped. I don't want to spoil it, but in her interviews, my mother speaks about how she had no choice and absolutely no way out. And my father speaks about how she was his girlfriend only based on the fact that he loved her. My mother was kidnapped by my father in 1997, and a year later, I was born. I was 12 and my sister was 8 when my mom first told us the story of kidnap. She believed we were too young to have to grapple with it, so she reimagined all the people in it as animals to help us cope. My dad was an elephant. My uncle, who helped kidnap my mom, was a pig. And my mom was her favorite animal, a horse. My sister found great joy in the story. She was laughing and giggling through it all, but even with all the whimsy, I thought it was rather grim, and I sat with my anger and confusion for many years after that. I really struggled with finding the form with which I could best explain and explore this familial history of mine, and also have it fit into the larger framework of feminist activism. I began on really dissecting and researching the sociopolitical and psychological aftermath of marriage by abduction back in 2020, and made a very happy woman in 2021 as part of my undergrad thesis at Bennington College. Over the summer when I was in Georgia before returning to the US, I digitized roughly 25 hours of family VHS tapes, and I spent hours and weeks and months investigating them and looking for clues in every second that I could, you know, sit with. Nowadays, I'm getting my MFA in film and video at CalArts, and I've been expanding my work and working more on the subject of marriage by abduction, both through digital and analog filmmaking practices. I'm really trying to expand it beyond my family story and into a larger scheme, a larger population of women in Georgia. I'm so beyond grateful for platforms such as Women's Voices Now Film Festival for championing matters around feminist activism around the world and giving voice to filmmakers to speak and raise awareness around their stories or stories they've witnessed in their lifetime. There's so much work, more work and healing to be done across many countries that necessitates better understanding and expansion beyond Western understanding of feminism. How can we start addressing pay gap when women in Georgia are still healing from essentially their life being stripped away from them? It's difficult to grapple with all of this under the American context. Can you really imagine your mother or your sister or your daughter being kidnapped by a man you barely know into marriage and you having no say in it? That's why it's so important and so crucial that festivals and organizations such as this exist. I was also funded by AUW Foundation, which supports women pursuing master's education in the United States. And I would encourage any fellow filmmakers looking for MFA degree to apply. But thanks to the incredible generosity of AUW, I was able to be here at CalArts this year and expand my work and continue my research around marriage by abduction.
Thank you so much for bringing your film to the festival and for your words today. The perspective in thinking beyond the Western feminist scope is exactly what we hope to do in this film festival, and we're really grateful for you helping anchor that reality here again today. Thank you so much, and to keep things moving, we'll invite our next filmmaker to the stage, Chloe Sosa Sims. If you're with us and ready, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm here. Well, thank you so much for having me today, and I'm very excited to be a part of this. So yeah, I'll let you know about my film. It's called Hunting in Packs. So I'm following 3 female politicians from across the political spectrum, fighting for their communities. So they're all trying to enact bold policy in the face of an outdated political establishment. So the film features 3 women from 3 different countries. So one is Michelle Rempel. She's a fiery Canadian MP. She's trying to bring Western conservative values into the 21st century. We have in the US, there's Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. She is the first Indian American woman in Congress. She's been arrested as an activist 3 times, and she's now a leading progressive in the House. And we have Jess Phillips. So she's a sort of mouthy working class MP from the UK and sort of the ultimate protector of women's rights. And so basically this is my second feature documentary. I was initially drawn to the topic because I was interested in sort of the general lack of female representation in politics and sort of curious about the barriers in terms of entering this space. I think on some level, I've always fantasized about getting into politics, to have the confidence and belief in your individual ability to change laws and systems and policies. It's just inspiring to me. And then once I met the women who became the subjects of this film, and I was able to follow their stories, I was very much interested in how those narratives reflected a larger truth. So if you're a strong-willed outsider, woman or not, going into politics with a decisive goal, can you succeed? What do you have to compromise along the way? And that's sort of the journey we go on in the film. And the film does use a lot of humor as well to sort of point to the absurd nature of politics. And yeah, I'm excited for people to see it. It's premiered at Hot Docs and Doc NYC, and it's premiering in the UK this week. But I'm really excited to be premiering it online internationally with Women's Voices Now. I think, film and documentary, is a really broadly accessible art form that really does create empathy. And in creating the film, I really am trying to create change and address women's rights. And the female politicians in the film are also doing this on a higher legislative and governmental level. And Women's Voices Now is basically bringing together and advocating for the many films that do this. So I think it's really amazing that we're all sort of working towards a similar goal. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for listening and for supporting the film.
Thank you, Chloe. I hope you see the notes in the chat. We're really grateful for your film and your time today. Paige Morrow Kimball, you are up next. Thank you so much for joining.
Hi, guys. How are you all? So nice to be here. Thank you very much for having me. My film is called Powers, and it's all about joy. So I sort of feel like I'm a bit of an outlier. I don't do dark. I'm certainly not cool enough. So I really appreciate being here and hope that my film will be somewhat uplifting to everybody. Powers was, hang on, let me just turn off my heater. Sorry, it's cold here in Los Angeles, where I'm from. Powers was really born in a very kismet way. During the pandemic, I have two teenage kids and two teenage girls, and we were all stuck at home together. And I started taking these walks in my neighborhood in Mar Vista near Venice, just to stay sane and really to try to find anything uplifting and positive that I could. And in everybody's windows here in close to around my neighborhood, there were signs of positivity, like laugh often, hang in there, we're going to be okay, things like that. And I started posting them on my Instagram. And then one day I came across these repurposed trash sculptures that were high up in the telephone poles. And the sculptures looked like little characters. They were made of junk, welded together junk. And they had positive messages on them like be love, big hugs, laugh often. And I went back and researched who the artist was that made these whimsical, beautiful sculptures. And I could not find anything about the artist at all, except other people had the same question. So one day on one of my walks, I passed by a house and there was a tiny little sculpture right in the front yard that looked very similar to the one in the telephone poles. And at that very moment, this woman came out. She was in her 60s. She looked like a mad scientist. And I said, excuse me, are you the artist who makes the sculptures in the telephone poles? And she said, why, yes, but don't tell anyone. And I thought, okay, who are you and what is your story? I explained to her that I was a filmmaker and I would love to kind of put her good message out. She told me that she goes up the telephone poles in disguise as a man, as a male utility worker, and all she wants to do is spread joy anonymously. So what transpired is I followed her around with my iPhone for a year and a half. And the film has absolutely exploded. I think it's about timing. I think everybody kind of maybe was ready for the breath of joy. So we've been to, I think this is our 23rd festival over the last year. We've been in 2 Oscar qualifying festivals, and this film has won 9 awards. I think the film itself speaks to things that I'm very passionate about. One is that it's never too late to do what you love. It speaks to ageism, especially as women. We encounter this every day, not only as filmmakers, but just in our lives. And this woman is in her 60s and she's literally climbing 20 feet high onto telephone poles. She's totally badass. And I think it's never too late to follow what your dream, your passion. Also, the fact that I shot it on an iPhone, right? I mean, that you can have, this little thing that we have in our pockets can not only change people's lives and minds, but also you can do what you want with just some passion, an idea, and a lot of perseverance. The other theme in it is that you can turn around the darkness that you've inherited, that you were born with, and turn it into joy, because as the film goes, you see her backstory with a very dark past, and she turned it around just to spread light. A little bit about me. I think I have a couple more minutes. Stop me if I'm going on too long.
Yeah, just
I've been a
one more minute,
filmmaker.
please. Thank you.
Am I okay? Okay.
One more minute.
I've been a filmmaker for many years. I started out in sports documentary. I was in unscripted for years after that, in reality. And then when I had my children and it felt like I couldn't do both well, which I think is another thing we as women face, I switched into scripted filmmaking and acting. I started performing in front of the camera and creating content. My stuff is, my company is Macazan Films, Inc. I work a lot for Sesame Street as an independent freelance director and producer. I'm in the DGA, I'm in SAG, lots of unions. And my film company, Macazan, is really created to telling uplifting, women-centered stories and to share our power around the world. And I'm very grateful to you guys for having powers. And thank you for having me today. And thank you for what you do. So important.
Thank you, Paige. Really appreciate it. Just to note, all filmmakers, you're getting notes into the chat too, so I hope you have a second to read that commentary. Thank you again for taking the time. And Francisco, we'll have you to the stage now. Just so folks know, we're just a few minutes delayed on our schedule. Appreciate the patience and the promptness. Thank you, Francisco. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. Thank you for having me here. So great. The film that I represent is The Neighborhood Storyteller, and actually my daughter Alejandra is the director of the film. I am the producer, and this film is the story of an amazing woman. Her name is Asma Rashid, and as many people from Syria, she had to leave her country because of the war, and she left when she was already at 16 years old of age, and she was already a wife and a mother, and she actually rebuilt her identity as a neighborhood storyteller, and began using reading to read aloud to children for fun. And she did this as a bridge to tackle critical issues in her community at the Satari refugee camp in Jordan. After doing this for 7 years, and when her firstborn daughter, Tamara, was reaching the adolescence, a flashback to her education-deprived past emerges and inspires her to embark on a new read aloud project to empower teenage girls to build a future opportunities she never had. And you can imagine, with this complex living situation of Asma, living as a refugee in a very conservative community, Asma was really determined to raise a conscious generation of successful women. So the Neighborhood Storyteller is a feature film that explores the human resilience, the transition from child to adult, and one's capacity to turn hardships into an opportunity for self-growth. So I am the producer, as I mentioned before. I partnered with my daughter about 4 years ago and founded Home Storytellers. We're a nonprofit in the US, and we do films about refugee self-reliance and also about empowerment of women and girls in vulnerable situations. I come from about 30 years of experience in the corporate world. I left that because I wanted to work in a project that would bring visual storytelling and social work together. And that's when I started thinking about it, talked to my daughter, and we came together to create this project. We are very happy to be in Women Voices now. It's a perfect place for us. We're running an impact campaign, and the key messages of our campaign around this film are that empowered girls and women living in vulnerable situations are resilient, they are creative, they are brave, and capable leaders of creating the world they want to know is possible. We are also saying that women-driven social change can happen in the most difficult circumstances, and also that simple actions can lead to big changes. So we're trying to take the film to a lot of women in vulnerable situations, and also to organizations that are working on these topics and inspire. I use the film to inspire dialogue among leaders and hopefully action around these topics. So thank you for having us here.
Thank you so much for being a part of it and sharing the story. It's really sweet to know that it was a family piece of work, and thanks for surfacing the work of your daughter here as well. Really grateful to have this film in the festival. Our next speaker today is Nicole Bedford. Nicole.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Nicole Bedford, and I am the director of The Smallest Steps. The Smallest Steps documentary follows 4 women as they take their first steps to end violence against women in Canada. And alongside their stories, we hear from veteran activists who share some of the history of the anti-violence movement here. And part of the reason I wanted to create this film, this is my very first feature, was because I volunteered to film one of the interviews with a veteran activist as part of a research project, and realized how little I knew about the history of the anti-violence movement. And in addition to that, I had been calling myself a feminist since I was 13, and through this interview realized that I was not embodying that in any real way, and I kind of needed to get myself together. So I was also working with students at the time, and I was hearing from a lot of them that they wanted to create change and they wanted to get involved, but they didn't know how, and they were very scared to take a step. And so that's kind of what inspired this film, and that's why it's called The Smallest Steps, because we're really trying to share the first steps that people take across generations to create change, and we're trying to demonstrate that any step you take is an important step forward. My first step was volunteering for that interview, and it has since resulted in a documentary that is being screened at festivals and in educational facilities, and it's actually sharing messages with people that don't even realize that violence against women is still an issue in Canada, let alone anywhere else. So in terms of me as a filmmaker, I'm fairly new to filmmaking. I jumped into filmmaking in 2019. And I just find that I gravitate towards telling women's stories in particular. And I think it's because I come with questions that I have either about myself or about the world around me. And then I love, like most documentary filmmakers, turning the camera on other people to kind of get a sense of, what do other people think about this? How do they feel? How do they live this? And the privilege that we have as documentary filmmakers is access to seeing into the world of other people that we don't necessarily know very well. And the courage that it takes to have somebody follow you around with a camera and then share your story on the screen is absolutely beautiful. And I think it's a huge privilege that we have. And what is great about that in the greater scope of a film festival, for example, is that media changes how we think and feel and act. It's around us all the time. It's incredibly powerful. In fact, corporations wouldn't be investing millions of dollars into advertising to us if it didn't work. And so that's one of the exciting things about documentary, whether the documentary is sharing knowledge that we didn't have before, or whether the documentary is showing us a part of who we are as human beings and encouraging us to see what in our lives, in the world around us, we want to change, and giving us the courage to do that. And so I'm very excited to have our film as part of this documentary film festival. And I'm so thankful that that everybody will be seeing The Smallest Steps.
Thank you, Nicole. Thanks for bringing the energy today and for this incredible film. We're really grateful to have you a part of this. I wanted to see if there's a filmmaker here. We have Surviving the Silence up next. I just didn't know if we had anybody in the room. And if not, we have a couple of more speakers, just 2 more filmmakers after that. And I know we're running just close to time. Is there anybody from Surviving the Silence? Okay. So with that, then we'll, Sam French, you're up. And I think we're back on track then, time-wise. Thanks, Sam.
Well, thank you very much, Chelsea. My name is Sam French. I'm here representing the film With This Breath I Fly, which is about 2 courageous Afghan women fighting for their freedom after being imprisoned for moral crimes. And before I tell you about the film, I want to say that I'm a white guy, and I'm here representing my co-director, Clem Malpass, and my producer, Leslie Knott, as well as our associate producer, Farzana, and the 2 incredible women in our film. I'm a huge supporter of women's rights, obviously. We've been working on this film for 10 years, but I'm here because of the women on the film. So I just want everyone to know that. And it's an honor to be here amongst this incredible panel of powerful women. So our film follows these 2 women in Afghanistan. We filmed it over 10, well, we worked on it for over 10 years. Our primary production was 3 years, way back when, in 2010, we started filming. But it's a very intimate verite look at these 2 women who have been in prison for so-called moral crimes. One of them was in a terribly abusive marriage and ended up running away, finding the only freedom she could by running away with this other man who she had fallen in love with. And they were both caught and imprisoned for the crime of running away from your husband, which is actually not a crime in Afghanistan. The other woman was raped by her uncle and became pregnant, and then her uncle actually was thrown into prison for raping her, but she was also thrown into prison for being raped, and raised her baby in prison. And we follow these women as they, fight against this patriarchal tribal system, trying to find a way to get their freedom. And that was our story for a while until the whole film took a turn, because we ended up getting funding from the European Union to start the film. And then when we submitted our cut, the European Union decided to bury the film and never release it. And they told us to delete all of our footage. And that led to a big legal fight with them. And then the press got a hold of the story. And Gulnaz, the woman who was raped and raised her baby in prison, became the face of women's rights in Afghanistan, which led to a pardon by President Karzai, which then led to the European Union assigning all the copyright to us, and we were allowed to keep on filming. And the story took a turn in terms of a theme of the story, which is the fact that in a country like Afghanistan, which seems so far away, what is our responsibility for women's rights in that country from the so-called Western world? And what is our responsibility as filmmakers to tell these stories, and how our actions impact the lives of these women, specifically in our film. Without us being there, I don't think that pardon would have happened. But then, of course, once the media turned their attention away, everyone forgot about the story. And of course, now, with the Taliban having taken over Afghanistan, things are even worse for women in Afghanistan. I mean, it's monstrous and evil what is happening in that country, but we're not there anymore, so people don't seem to care. So that's the reason we made the film, to shine awareness on this issue. And we did so in a way that was just through the eyes of these 2 women. And I think ultimately, I love the title of this film festival, because ultimately we realized through this whole process that the only power women have in situations like that is their voices. Farida and Gulnaz, the 2 subjects of our film, had no power in the public sphere. They didn't even have identity cards. No one, the state didn't know they existed. And yet, by participating in our film, I hope that they gain some measure of power. And I think raising your voices is the most important thing we can do. And as filmmakers, it's the most important thing we can do. It's our charge. It's our mandate to amplify the voices of people who otherwise would not be able to speak. That's why I'm a filmmaker. I spent 5 years in Afghanistan trying to tell stories about things the media wouldn't cover, didn't care about that much. And it's always a struggle trying to get people to care. It's funny, in Q&As after the film, we've been in about 20 festivals and won about 10 awards at the festivals. So people love the film. but it's very hard to get distribution. I think we might be announcing something soon that's going to change that game, so stay tuned. But at the Q&As in all our screenings, everyone asks me, you know, what are you doing now about women in Afghanistan? And I have to say, I'm not an activist. I am a storyteller, and I think that's hard enough. I mean, it is so hard to take these stories and put them on your shoulders and carry them for this long. I mean, it's been about a dozen years now that we've been holding this story in our hearts, and our job is to tell the stories. And Women's Voices Now, and people who may see the film hopefully will be inspired to go and take action to help women around the world and solve the terrible things that are happening to women. And also, by the way, in the past few years, well, throughout the making of this film, we, the team, Clem, Leslie, and myself, kept talking about how the issues that these women faced in Afghanistan resonate with women here in America too. I mean, with the passing, I mean, with the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the trend and people trying to control women's bodies here in America, silence voices. It's not that far away. And I think that is the power of film, is an empathy machine that we see ourselves and other people. And hopefully films like the ones that are in this festival can bring people closer together. So I'm here to stand up for women and amplify their voices. And if I can use any of my power to do that, that's what I'll do.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for leveraging that power for all people. I really appreciate that in a really big way, and taking the camera where folks won't or haven't yet. We really appreciate that. Our last speaker of this media lounge is with us. We have Tamara Perkins, and I believe she's joined by Sarah Mamori. If you're able to take the stage. Hi, thank you so much for joining us. And then I'll come back on to wrap us up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, and Sarah Mamori is the producer editor of Clarissa's Battle. I'm Tamara Perkins. I'm so grateful to be here. Also, usually Clarissa Douthard, our amazing film protagonist, is generally with us. So I'm dropping in a virtual press conference so you can also hear from her directly. So I've been making films for about 20 years. I think of myself more as a media activist, although I've also produced narrative films. This is my third feature documentary film. And I think that one thing that resonates for me and is clear in all of my films is my connection to the subject matter. My first two films were connected to my own experience as a justice impacted family member, and Clarissa's Battle came out of my desire to have a family. I in addition to making films, I'd had a day job so that I could have health insurance, and took me about 5 years to finally have my daughter. And then when I was about 9 months pregnant, I got laid off and was suddenly thrown off this economic cliff. And, you know, completely was terrified, was angry, and, you know, didn't really know what to do. And I met Clarissa Douthard, who is this incredible organizer and single mom fighting for childcare and early education for all families through this parent-led organizing. And she both helped me get access to systems of care that I knew nothing about in order to just stabilize. And then after connecting both as moms and activists, decided to go on this journey with me. And then soon after, Sarah Mamori jumped on, and this has been about a 7-year journey. And the film really looks at Clarissa's and her organization and organizations like hers work to build an inclusive, often parent-led movement in the fight for, in this battle that we're having towards even being seen as parents. You know, there's a historical piece to the way that childcare is is seen and treated in this country. You know, whether you're looking at racism, misogyny, a lot of built-in systems of discrimination and prejudice, and that coupled with the shame that is put on mothers especially, but parents and low-income families that are in need of safety nets and supports that are our legal right in the United States. So all of these things kind of come together to make Clarissa's Battle. It's a really beautiful and intimate journey with Clarissa on you know, through campaigns fighting for childcare and early education. It's based in Oakland, but has a reach across the country into DC, and it's sort of embedded in it is an impact campaign. And I'm not sure if Sarah is ready to speak, but if she is, she can jump in. Otherwise, I will continue. So we are using the film as an organizing tool. So we now have partners that we've been working with, both local and national. So Parent Voices Oakland, which is Clarissa Douther, the film protagonist organization, and national partners such as Community Change and Community Change Action, Early Childhood Funders Collaborative, groups like the United Way of Greater Charleston, and now working with other groups like the U.S. Department of Labor Women's Bureau, and connecting with legislators and electeds to bring this film to the Capitol. So, and I apologize, I both have been home for about a week with a sick child and also getting over a cold a little. So I'm feeling both a little a little rushed and a little stuffed, but this is I think that both Sarah and I and Clarissa and our whole team were so excited to be connected with Women's Voices Now. It's just so in line with everything that we want to do with the film. Again, as a media activist and someone who has spent the last 20 years you know, trying to use film as I think someone mentioned, as an empathy machine, but also as a tool for action, as something that you know, allows people to go on a journey you know, with our moms, with the parents in our film, and especially with Clarissa, and see how we can all make a difference and how important it is for all of us to be organizing together. And we each have different ways in which we can get into that fight. But there's a lot of reality in our film, but it's also super hopeful and really shows it's told from this place of power and you know, really honoring the work that especially Black women now are leading in this country, this organizing that's happening to try to keep rights and claw back rights that are getting taken away from us.
Thank you so much for joining and for putting a bow, I think, so much on what we do at this festival. The conversation of empathy through film cannot be stated enough. It's one of our mottos, that we use film to drive empathy to action. And we know each of your films does that in such a powerful way. Thank you so much, Tamara, for joining us, for bringing Clarissa's Battle to the festival. I'm going to just sort of say a few words and then wrap up this media lounge. Wanted to just thank everybody for taking the time to join us today. The filmmakers, industry panelists, folks from all various nooks and crannies of our festival process. Really grateful for everyone and the work it takes to pull this off. Once again, the festival runs the entire month of March. It's online, on demand, so no matter where you are around the world, you can purchase a ticket, access the digital film collection, watch any of these 38 documentary films, be inspired, be motivated to take action. Find us again at one of the other events taking place throughout this month. We have an industry panel that you're able to access through purchase of your ticket, the film festival ticket on March 9th, next Thursday. And then 2 Thursdays from then, we'll have our awards ceremony. Just a word on our awards and prizes. We have over $12,000 in cash prizes we award across 7 different prize categories. And we're excited for the award ceremony on March 23rd, where all of that will be revealed. So thanks again to the filmmakers and everyone for today. Pieces of this recording will become available to folks in very many ways. So stay tuned, and thank you again. Have a great day.